Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Between the Pot and the Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton.
And I am Chris Kirkpatrick.
And wow, I gotta say, starting off that, okay, of course, tonight we're gonna talk about Stranger Things.
Of course.
But, 2 days ago, we interviewed Eric Wallace from CW's The Flash, and my, what controversy he hasn't caused, but it's interesting. And we were talking earlier today, and I was engaging in the comments, and I'm like, maybe I should pull back a little bit, but it's just, I don't know. To me, I'll never understand why people want to dedicate their time to go and say, I hate this. And it's like, well, don't watch it. But I have to watch it so that I can tell everybody I hate it. But why? Because it's my right. I'm like, why?
One of the things we had talked about in our episode with Eric Wallace specifically was this real palpable hatred in the fandom.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that, like it or not, they're not fans of the direction the show has taken. And I knew going into this interview with him that we were going to get some backlash as a result of it. I knew that.
Quite a bit.
I think I was impressed with the idea that he just simply doesn't read the internet, which for me seems almost ridiculous. I don't know how you exist without the internet.
I mean, maybe he reads it, but just doesn't openly talk about it, because maybe he does, because I mean, a lot of these shows and the people that run these shows, they say they listen to the fans here and there, whatever. They can't always do everything the fans want, because you have to appeal to advertisers and networks. But there's got to be some level of like, let's check and see what people are saying. But yeah, I couldn't, like, if I was running a show, I'd be on there like, oh yeah, well, let me see your script for this episode. I would not be. I'd probably be fired as a showrunner.
Right.
I don't want to go too far with commenting, but I do find myself struggling to not comment. It's just better not to read them. But I'm curious because I want to see like the people. I want to engage with them, and I think people love to hate and love to argue. So I'm like, I mean, argue a little bit, and then they'll not do it just for the sake of it, but like I can debate something with someone, and as long as they're being respectful and all this, and it's fine. But when people start going on there and throwing the real toxic stuff out there, I'm like, no. But it is what it is.
I get it. There are, when we're talking about bigger companies, they've got their own PR managers who take care of all of that engagement kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My issue is we've worked so hard building our brand, and I want to make sure that if we're going to engage with people, that we make sure that engagement, at least from our end, stays positive, right? In my view, these are people who they've at least watched the episode. They have an interest in this kind of stuff. They're potential subscribers. By the way, if you're watching this and you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But I don't want to turn people off. I think it's great that at least controversy is getting people's attention. And I think we can spin that to get people to join us. So that's my only thing. But as we always know, there are always, what is it? That whole thing about one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yeah. I think that's part of me too. I want to not play the bad guy, like play it up like ha ha ha. But it is fun to be, not fun to be hated, but like, for somebody to care that much, to put that much energy in a thought, it's like, really? I mean, like, I get if you don't like it. I get if and I admitted in some of the comments, I was like, yeah, the first 3 or 4 seasons were my favorite ever. And I'm not going to tell Eric Wallace that, like, you suck, sir. But I don't think he sucks. I just think it's an overall different style and different way to do the show. And I love the graphic novel format that he's kind of adapted into this show. It does, because also that kind of kills a lot of filler episodes. There are maybe 1 or 2 here and there that you need to do that's kind of slow paced just to push to the next thing. But in a season that has like 22 episodes and you have one villain, like you said, throughout the whole thing, there's got to be those chase him. Where is he at? Let's find him. And instead of doing that in 10 minutes, they're doing it in 10 episodes. And so like that does get very slow and very boring. And with that, yeah, some storylines get squished down, some of the side stories. But everybody's still. But one thing I noticed in the comments, though, people went a few years ago from hating Iris with a passion, like let Savitar kill her, please, to she's not getting enough credit. So that's a positive thing, I guess. It's like I think maybe he reverse psychology like tricked everyone. It's like, let me make a boring Iris story so that you could hate on it, so that you can love her when you hated her 3 years ago, or whatever. I don't know. I don't hate the show, but I don't. It's not what it was. But I think that's hard to top that, and it's hard to even match that.
Right.
But
what I will say is that even though I will say that the show isn't necessarily heading in the direction that I want it to go in, talking to Eric and giving him an opportunity to basically explain his thought process, in his role as showrunner, he's got a lot of control over the direction of the show. And when we learned about his view about like pleasing 14-year-old Eric, I thought was amazing.
Yeah,
that really is sort of like his touchstone, that it keeps him grounded.
It's his lightning rod.
Yeah, it's a lightning rod. I thought that was really great, and so I do think, again, we know that he is a legitimate fan. He's not some poser. He didn't just accidentally become showrunner.
Right.
He's got legit chops, but he does have a very clear vision for what he wants the show to be.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say on that in this episode is if he was doing such a terrible job, I didn't understand the characters to the point that some of the people commenting are claiming, then I don't think that Warner Brothers and CW would still have him on board and being in charge for 3 straight years and going into a 4th. So, I mean, there's that. Maybe the ratings have dropped a little bit over the years, just like anything else. But at the same time, I think most people can agree that it's way better than Naomi.
But if that's a low bar. I will say, though, that you consider that here it is, season 8, and still when you look at ratings, I think The Flash is always in the top 3.
I never actually looked at it, but I mean, it's got to be up there if it was so low to the point where it was just terrible, then they wouldn't have it on the air.
Well, I mean, again, Riverdale is still in existence. Like I've said before, there are podcasts that have higher ratings than Riverdale.
I think we might have higher ratings than Riverdale.
Just about. We're kind of like neck and neck as far as how that goes. I mean, there are certainly more, there's more behind the decision of why certain shows stay or leave than just ratings.
Right.
Anyway, I really appreciated the chance to talk to Eric, considering who he is, that he would take time to go and speak to us. And in my view, he seemed very open and transparent.
He did.
And easy to talk to.
Definitely. I mean, I want to say even easier and more relatable than anybody else we've had. Not anybody else we've had, but most of them, because he was it felt like talking to one of us.
Yeah.
But from the other side, and everybody else we've talked to have been great and easy to talk to, but on a different level. They're at a different spot. Not to say that like they're not as good as him or he's not as good as them. It's just different personalities, and it's interesting to see.
But isn't that really the issue that we have? We always put these celebrities up on a pedestal, and we always go into these interviews just like anxiety ridden and nervous. And then we get into the conversation and we're like, oh, he's just like me. To me, that just blows my mind that this person that I look up to and admire is just an average Joe that just happens to have this opportunity that not everybody has.
Right.
That's one of the cool things that we get to do, is to kind of pull back that layer and kind of see them for who they really are.
Right.
That's really cool.
And if you guys did check out the interview 2 days ago on Friday night, then you'll know that I am responsible for the next appearance of Drunk Barry. So, but I'm giving credit to Eric Wallace, who that was kind of a cool moment for me. I'm like, Drunk Barry, ha ha ha. He's like, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was just kidding, but yeah, please. He refused to give me a credit in the show, but wouldn't that be cool? Like that one idea by Stephen Colton in the opening credits when it's going. Oh my gosh. I think they would have to pay me at that point. I would pay them. I should have asked Eric, like, can I give you like $100 to put my name on the screen, like at the end or something? like, or just have it written on a piece of paper on someone's desk as an Easter egg. So
Right. Well, if we're going that far, I want Stephen Colton and Chris Kirkpatrick on there.
that's what we should do. Chester or somebody should be watching our podcast
Right.
in the background, like not even any sound, just have us going like, or whatever, and there you go.
These are all brilliant ideas. So
I don't know why I didn't think of that Friday, but that would have been great. But yeah, Stranger Things.
I'm so glad that we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Number one, I mean, I've been a fan of Stranger Things since the beginning.
I love this.
Corey, I think Corey really enjoys swapping our heads for other characters.
Yeah. At first, when I saw this, I thought we were every character, and because we normally like are, but we're 4 of them, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Poor little Will looks like he's getting his eye smashed in. Oh, that's a camera, I think.
It is a camera.
That's right. I thought he was like getting hit in the eye with something at first. I'm like, what is that?
It's like he's being turned into a Borg or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's got I think that I'm covering up the rest of his camcorder.
At first, I thought you had a proton pack on it for some reason,
Right?
And then that was part of that. But I was like, no. And there I am in my little sailor outfit.
It's very dapper, very dapper.
Oh, at least I'm a Ghostbuster.
So what's crazy is looking at these. I call them kids, but if there's anything that season 4 has showed me is they're not kids anymore.
Yeah, Strunkberry makes Gideon.
Strunkberry makes Gideon. Now, if that happens, he gets drunk and then just like, oh, I got to make Gideon. We know we had our hand in it. But no, Stranger Things 4. These kids aren't kids anymore. They have really grown up. You know what I mean? They have.
It's like they really did. Like last season, they were like 4 years old, and now they're like a year older in the story or 2, whatever, and they're like twice as big.
Yeah.
And I know like a big part of that is the fact that they had so many delays during COVID. They didn't film for close to 2 years or something like that. They filmed season 4 in 2021. And I think season 3 came out, 2019 maybe? Or early 2020? I can't remember exactly. But there was at least probably a good year and a half gap in between what we got. And it's weird to think that the actress playing 11 is now like 18 years old.
She
is. And in episode 1, she was like 12. And that just blows my mind in this 6-year period that kids age at all, I guess.
I think
forget.
I think it's easy for us to just kind of think that, the time is the same for them as well as for the actor, and it's not.
Right.
That and she does look, with her head shaved and in that hospital gown, she looks a lot younger.
She does. And then it took me a few minutes to realize they were doing this, but when she's having those visions, it was like a weird Inception or something like that. I was like, oh, this is actually happening right now. But then it would flash to or kind of cut to the mirror, and you see young 11, who's probably 11 years old. Worst joke ever. But yeah, she's little in the mirror, but big in like what we're seeing. So we're seeing her as she, like in the moment that she's seeing all this, and she's in that matrix or whatever, that she's in the matrix and in the underwater matrix. And so, yeah, it took me a minute to connect that, like, oh, she's in this. And it's not really happening. They're forcing her to remember it, which was cool.
Yeah.
And you see the young 11, and you see current 11, and you can tell like the size difference. I mean, they're taller, and you could tell on her face that she's a little bit older, but she does look so much younger. And I actually looked into it and found out, because I was like, please tell me they didn't cut that poor girl's hair again in real life. And it turns out they had like a wig that they used. They didn't actually shave her head in real life, which is great. I don't know why they have to shave their heads at all. It's like, in order to be like a superhuman, you have to have a shaved head. Like, why? Well, because you notice when her hair grew out, she lost her powers. So, I mean,
right. Well, I think you understand that she's a test subject, right? She's a lab rat. in the truest sense. And part of that is they've got to stick those probes all over her head,
Yeah.
and probes don't stick to hair very well.
You
So
would think they could put them in other spots somehow. I mean, or like stick little like needles in the sides, or I
we're
don't
talking
know.
about these are the same people that tattooed numbers on their arms,
Yeah,
right? Like if there's why only refer to people as numbers instead of as giving them names?
yeah,
It's
and
the same thing.
they're real people. See, when I first saw it, I keep forgetting that they're not clones or anything like that. 'Cause that was my first thought, like, oh, she's a clone of some kind. But I don't know if anybody remembers that show. It's like a Disney Channel show or something. It was called Kyle XY, I think. And he was same concept. He was like pretty much made in a lab, and he was a clone. And he escaped and was running around. A family found him. He starts living with very similar to what the Stranger Things. That's what it was called. Similar to that. But that's what I thought at first. And then it's like, oh, these are real people. Like this girl had a real family. This kid, like all how many 20 something kids like had actual families. So they basically just abduct all these children and test them. I don't really know why they originally thought, you know what, we should just steal a bunch of kids and see what happens.
Well, so I think here's how this all worked out is that they find one who has that natural ability, right? That he has that natural ability of telepathy, telekinesis, and that kind of thing. Yes.
It was a
Um,
great show.
and then they realize that they want to see if they can duplicate his abilities, right? Having
Right.
just one superpowered individual
That's true.
isn't enough. Can we hone it? Can we focus it? Can we control it? Um, because one is an anomaly, but if you can reproduce it, then you could have an army of supers,
Right.
right? And
So
so,
yeah, one also we learn Vecna is number one. Spoiler.
yeah,
So that's interesting. So we get to go all the way back to the beginning and see how all this kind of played out. And like you were just explaining, um, he was the first one, and he was kind of rebellious. They wanted to control him, and they couldn't. And so that was the whole purpose of this experiment, to perfect this and duplicate it. But you don't realize that until later on. But so he gets blasted into the Upside Down, which is, I guess, what causes all the evil monsters to come out. I don't know. It's one of those Savitar moments for me still. I'm like, wait a minute, if this exists. But he gets blasted upside down and falls from the sky, being struck by lightning. How did Hopper go through the same gate and somehow end up in Russia alive without powers? That's a good question. I mean, I think maybe the reason Vecna gets powers is because he already had them. He was that lab experiment. I don't know if just going through the portal itself into the Upside Down gives you powers, because Will never got powers. He was in there, and all the other
right.
kids, like the entire cast, basically goes to the Upside Down in this season, and
There's
talks to each other with a light bright.
right. There really is a difference. The difference is that L essentially banishes him to the Upside Down. Right.
Mhm.
We see him literally disintegrate and then get forced through that chasm that she creates, that opening into the Upside Down. And in that whole process, his body is transformed into Vecna.
Yeah,
But that's
he's
not,
there. Yeah.
yeah. Vecna though he doesn't necessarily though create the monsters. The
No.
monsters have already been there.
Yeah, it's like almost like an actual literal hell in a sense. Which is interesting because it's like a copy of this world, but just upside when like when you're there, you flip over, I guess. But that's what when I was growing up, I thought, oh, the real hell would be in this earth, but on such a different realm that you can't see it. So from their perspective, like burning souls, they see you going like la la la, and then they're like, oh, I can't talk to you. This is torture. So
Right.
it's essentially kind of what the Upside Down is, except they don't really see everybody, but they can talk to you through light brights, which is cool, I guess.
Yeah. So Corey, it sounds to me like Corey's question though was talking about how did David Hopper, how did he get from being in Indiana, and then
Right.
the explosion happens, and then he ends up in Russia. And I think first and foremost is that they had already opened a gate that allowed them to travel between Russia and the Upside Down and the United States. And so they had already opened up that portal when the blast happens, when Joyce causes the whole thing to blow up. It shoves him through with enough force that he ends up in the Upside Down. And that's where the Russians get him. Because they were already kind of in there.
Yeah, they really like they got the Demogorgons and like those little Demodogs and like trained them and fighting them and stuff to like try to, I guess, weaponize them. And we see that in this season 2 where they, line everybody up, give them a key, like, go get your weapons. Like, this isn't gonna work. But Hopper's the only one that knows that fire is the one weakness
right
that they have, and of course that's part of the whole escape plan.
So I've got to say that I find, number one, I thought the lengths that the show goes through, they get more and more extreme, right? Like Joyce always ends up doing something ridiculous. Season 1, she figured out how to talk to Will by setting up all the lights and figuring out a code system to talk with him. And then forget what it was for season 2. Season 3, though, she had figured out the electromagnets. And how that was going on. But this for Joyce, this idea that not only was Hopper alive, but now she is going to, travel to Alaska and then ultimately to Russia to go rescue him. The scale just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, season 5 is going to be on the moon, and then she's going to get in a very fast race car with rockets on it, just like Fast and Furious 9,
right?
And blast to the moon, and she's going to do it for her family. It's like a season 5 and Fast and Furious 10 crossover.
I mean, we've been, I think they've been trying to get Hopper and Joyce together for a while, and it's never really worked out. But if Hopper ever had any doubt about how much she cares about him, this should be the evidence that he needs.
Absolutely. I mean, and what kind of like torture he went through, like breaking his feet and stuff to like get the chains off and all that. It's just.
Can I say how underrated an actor I think that David Harbour is?
Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. Like, really amazing. He looks weird with a shaved head, but I mean, who doesn't, I guess?
So I know we've talked about this before, but I do find it amazing that in the Black Widow movie, David Harbour is a superhero locked in a Russian prison in Siberia and has to escape. And here we find him in Stranger Things in almost exactly the same kind of situation. It would be laughably hysterical if it was the same prison.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't know what it is about casting David Harbour, in Russia, in a Russian prison. But it's just interesting how those two kind of intersect a little bit as far as the story is concerned. But that said, I think that, I think we just really learn a lot about who he is. Even in his involvement with Vietnam, we find out that he's a veteran.
Yeah.
And dealing with, PTSD. Not just from the loss of his daughter, but because of his time in the service. He was talking about dealing with Agent Orange, which, interestingly enough, my father, from his time in Vietnam, dealt with Agent Orange as well, and some health issues that came along with that. So it's just weird how all that comes together. So
yeah, and by the way, like your dad's stories on Facebook, those are amazing. Like I see those and I'm just like, I have to listen to this. I have to read this. It's so interesting. Like somebody should do like a 90-minute documentary or something. Like
I know.
I would totally watch that, or a series or something like that. That'd be great.
So I know this is totally off topic, but I'm going to talk about it just for a moment. When I was growing up, my dad never spoke about his experience in Vietnam and Korea. That was something he really kept to himself. And I remember I was a junior in high school, and we were studying Vietnam in class, and I thought, my dad was in Vietnam, and so I said, I'll just go and bring him in, and I'll interview him for class. And so I had made up some questions, very vanilla softball questions, to ask him about his experience. And he had looked at the questions in advance, had a pretty good idea about what's going to happen. I bring him into class. I think I get through like my second question, and all of a sudden he stops. He just goes off and starts telling his own story. And I spend the next 45 minutes with my jaw hanging open.
Wow.
Because that's not necessarily the way that I wanted to learn about my dad, but it was the first time where he had been open about his experiences. So what you've been seeing on Facebook really has been a part of my dad's therapy in dealing with his PTSD. I think also a real desire to capture those moments while he can. These stories, they're gone once he's gone. And so I'm really glad that he's taking a moment to capture them just for posterity.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you liked it.
He should think about doing a podcast or something. That'd be interesting. Where it's like, who knows?
Yeah. I've joked with him because he's doing audio recordings of what he's doing. So I told him, hey, Dad, you're podcasting. You just don't realize it.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So that was for me. That was a neat connection that I didn't think I was going to have with the story. Was that element of him, as a Vietnam veteran. But yeah, I really liked it, and I think the stories of what's happening with Joyce and with Hopper and with Murray, that group, it's like they're telling a couple of different stories. There's the California bunch, there's the Indiana group, and then there is the group that is in Russia. It's kind of cool how all three of those stories kind of intermix.
And at some point they're all gonna like come around the corner and meet up.
They will. It's gonna all happen, all at once.
Oh yeah.
How do you love Murray? I think Murray is one of those characters that I've always thought to be over the top, ridiculous, and yet they're on the plane, and he had let Joyce know that he knows karate, which never goes well. Whenever somebody brags about knowing the martial arts, you're usually like, oh great, he took a summer class
online.
And he knows, online, and he fought 6-year-olds.
Right.
My hands are like arrows.
But then he backs it up.
He does. He totally kicks the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, and it's insane.
Yeah. So I thought it was both hilarious and I think again, it makes me appreciate his character. He's ridiculous, right? He's over the top. But even his fluency in Russian, right? I think that is, it just proved that Joyce made the right choice in kind of roping him into her adventure.
Hello, Facebook user. I hate when the group thing does that.
I know.
Hey, mystery people.
Hey.
No, the mystery of the rest of the episode is finding out who they are.
I know. At least we're getting comments. That's what I care about.
Yeah. And they're not like Stranger Things is the worst show ever, but I watch it every day.
Right. Well, listen, looking at the IMDb, right, Stranger Things has an 8.7 out of 10, which I think it's a little bit low. However, it does say that Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 93%.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that IMDb rarely gives anybody anything perfect. So
No, never.
it's
Well,
a
not
very
never, but rarely.
yeah, and if I were a math teacher, I would round 8.7 up to 9.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's an A minus, B plus, which I think is fair. Even if I would give the show an A plus personally.
I would too. I mean, I would give
Yeah,
it probably a 9 at least. It's great, and
yeah,
I don't know where it's at right now as far as performance, but back like a week or so ago, it was. I guess. Well, it did come out last week. I guess it was the number one show for at least a week.
yeah.
I don't know if it's still in that spot or not, but it's definitely in the top 10. It has
I
to
have
be.
I certainly have not seen the kind of hate for Stranger Things that I have seen for The Flash.
Right.
That
Yeah.
is, however, that saying the fandom still is pretty lousy sometimes. I was looking and seeing that Millie Bobby Brown, who plays 11,
Mhm.
um, she's had a really tough go at dealing with online sexualization, with people um, making comments and making allegations that she had said things that she didn't say, or that she was doing things that she wasn't doing. You know,
Mhm.
uh, I think that toxicity in the fandom and you know trying to make that division between who she is as an actress and who she is as a human being. I think sometimes we see that people get emboldened when they're on the internet, that they say and do things that they would never do to a person to their face.
Right.
So
Like, yeah, it's that's why I never go extreme with comments. I'll say things that I would say to someone in person.
yeah,
I might say it at a distance, but I'm like, hey, you're dumb. But I would still say it. And that's why I'm not gonna be like, I'm gonna find your mother and then make her pay or something. Like that's like I don't know.
all right. So
Oh,
I've got to say that
this is a good one.
yeah.
Sorry. We are going to find out that Noah Bennett is the one who stole the kids for the experiment lab.
Ooh,
Perfect.
yeah.
Make it so.
Definitely a Heroes crossover. That would be awesome.
Orland Hero like goes to the upside down. Yatta! Holy crap! And then like, yeah, I don't know. That'd be great. That'd be so great.
Fine, man.
Yeah, badass.
Yes, yes.
And then Marie teaches him karate.
I miss that show so much.
Oh, I do too. Oh my gosh.
Talk about characters that I think surprised me a lot. Sadie Sink plays Max Mayfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not really appreciated her character maybe as much as I thought so. I mean, I think she had a really great moment with Elle at the mall.
Yeah.
In season 3.
Mm-hmm.
However, seeing her, deal with the influence of Vecna, and her coming face to face with the reality that two people have already experienced exactly what she's going through, and she knows that she's going to die. I thought it showed great courage that she dealt with it the way that she did. Anyway, I thought she played it off great. It was one of those. I mean, it could have been a finale moment when she's in the upside down and she's lifting off the ground, and we all know what happens once you get lifted off the ground. You're dead. And
Pretty
then
much.
and then she hears that her favorite song, and she sees her friends gathered around her, and she remembers all of the good times, and that was enough to break herself free. That was a real game changer.
Yeah. And there's enough comedy sprinkled into that too, where she's like putting on her headphones, like, I hope I don't get sick of this song, so it's no longer my favorite song and
Right.
doesn't work.
Right.
It's great.
But I think it's already given us a little bit of a clue into, how to defeat Vecna. You
Mhm.
know, Vecna thrives on negative emotions, on sadness and darkness and depression. And, surprise, surprise, it takes light to defeat the dark.
And, all they got to do is play a bunch of NSYNC, and he'd just be like, and then just blow up.
Right.
So
Right. It's almost like a Care Bear stare.
the Barney the Dinosaur theme song, Mr.
Right.
Rogers' Neighborhood theme song, like any
Right.
kind of 80s, 90s family show sitcom. Imagine dying to the Family Matters theme song.
Oh no.
Or the Sesame Street. Okay, I could go on and on forever, but yeah,
Right.
they could just play every jukebox and every stereo in. Well, I was gonna say in that one town, but I guess anywhere in the world, just call everybody up, like, hey, play your radio. I wonder if they're not gonna do that. Get some kind of satellite, like project music every. I don't know.
Well, I have heard that the song that Max loves, and they keep playing throughout the episode, it's found kind of a resurgence because of the show.
Mhm.
So,
oh yeah, and things like that tend to happen, which I'm guilty of that myself. I see something or hear something, I'm like, oh, I have to go do that right now, and
right.
I'm obsessed over it for like 2 weeks or something until I get bored again. But no, that would be a good fight. Darth Vader versus Vecna.
It would be interesting. I don't know how good Vecna would handle against the lightsaber.
I don't know, because Vecna could get in his head and could lift him up. But then again, because I don't know if the whole Jedi mind trick stuff would work on him, because he's not weak-minded or weak-willed.
Right.
So he wouldn't be able to go like, oh no, you're forcing me, or whatever. The force choke probably wouldn't work either, because he would just be like, whoosh, and then make Vader go up in the air. And then he couldn't break his legs though, because they're all robot. So he couldn't like twist it, because he's mostly like metal. He's like RoboCop or something.
But I'm sure that you could like rip him off.
Oh yeah. Then he could still flop around. He could still use the mind force, because he wouldn't have to have his hands and his feet. He could just hover himself and float without legs, which I never understood why Yoda never did that. And a sidetrack, but did you see Yoda walking around in every Star Wars movie with a little cane? And then in like episode 1 or 2, you see him fighting like somebody, and he's like, I think it was episode 2. He's running around, like everywhere, like a bumblebee stinging you in the face a million times.
Right.
If he could do all that, and then he could pick up an X-wing fighter when he's training Luke, why couldn't he just hover himself and fly everywhere?
I'm sure that he could. It would have taken a lot of concentration and will that he would have had to go and use all the time. I think also that Star Wars has always played upon our expectations, right? That we think, oh, he's so small and tiny, and and he needs that walking stick. He's defenseless, and we feel bad for him, and we would underestimate him. If you were going to go fight Yoda, you would think that he would get beaten easily, right? And then all of a sudden, here he is. He's just flying around and jumping, and a force to be reckoned with. It's that whole "don't judge a book by its cover" kind of thing.
They do play with our expectations, because I expected the episode 1 to be good, and it wasn't. So
right.
They played around. They're like, we're just tricking you into getting you so mad about Star Wars being crap. No, that's not crap. Actually, looking back, I actually do like those movies, but I don't know. Maybe that's just because I didn't grow up like when Star Wars came out originally. I saw some when I was a kid and stuff, but I never grew up like super into it until I got a little older. And then I'm like, I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I never really had that sour taste for any of the newer ones. I loved everything I'm seeing so far, actually. But don't say that on the internet.
Yeah, you'll never hear the end of it.
Misa thinks they're going to troll me. Oh, jeez.
I know. You went there.
I mean, yeah, Jar Jar. All right. But, yeah, anyway, back to Stranger Things.
I know. So let's talk about the California bunch. I think that was an interesting choice for them to have Joyce and the kids, uproot themselves from Indiana and go 2,000 miles to California. Um, you know, and part of me goes, I understand the idea that maybe you got to get away from everything. If
Mhm.
Hawkins is the reason why there are problems, then hey, leave your problems behind, go get a fresh start someplace else. I think though what is obvious is whatever they had been hoping for, um, as far as a fresh start, isn't really working out too well for them.
Not at all.
No.
And it's not Hawkins. It's not this. It's everywhere. I mean, this evil is everywhere. I still, don't really understand it, which is what makes the show so interesting. It's like we know that the Upside Down has always been there and all that, but it's like there has to be a connection or an origin. This is my Savitar moment again. There has to be some kind of thing that causes, because not that creates it. I mean, I can accept the fact that it was just always there, this underworld, this evil underworld. But Eleven's connection to it, that's what gets me. I'm like, how? Like originally in the lab, the powers, I get all that, but how could she push number one, or Vecna, as we later find out, push him into a wall, open a portal, create this thing, do all that? Where did she know how to do that? Just with some super strength and stuff. Like, that's what I don't know.
Right. Well, I think that the truth is that she didn't know what she was doing.
No.
What we've seen is that there are moments where she lashes out, and we see kind of the full brunt of her powers on display. But it's not like she has control of it or knew that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was just as surprised as anybody was.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
When that occurred, and I don't think she realized that by doing that, she was essentially giving Vecna even more power than he had before.
And I'm wondering if she didn't do that and she just say snapped his neck or whatever, even accidentally, would the Mind Flayer and all these Demogorgons and all this stuff, would that have even been able to happen without what she did? Because making that portal, putting him in there, kind of created that ripple that spewed out everything else. So it's really her fault.
Well,
in a way.
So we know that she was directly, that she created Vecna in his current form and gave him his I guess spiritual body, right? That's what we know for El. However, she didn't create the Upside Down.
Right.
She didn't create the Demogorgons. That it had been in existence for a long time. What she did, though, is she revealed the existence of that other world. Right. That's really what she did.
Yeah, then that's what I was thinking too. That when she sent him there, even accidentally, not realizing it, that she opened the door for all that to come in. Like,
right.
It's possible that it could have still happened without her involvement. Like, because if this evil underground or evil underworld, all this, if that was all there, I'm sure at some point it could have came through, because even the Russians were able to create portals and stuff. That had nothing to do with her. So as far as Hawkins go, I think that, that was related to what she did. But
when you consider the kind of power that the Russians had to draw upon in order to punch a hole through and do what El is able to do naturally, it does let you realize just how powerful she is. I think what was really sad was that here in season 4, El is powerless, right? Whether it's a mental block or a physical block, she doesn't have access to her powers, and for the first time, she's really dealing with situations that she can't banish to the Upside Down or knock out of her way. And so
who is Eleven's parents? Is the power passed genetically? I think the power, like we talked about, I think a little bit ago, with the power is, I think, not genetically. Wow, It was created in the lab, basically. It's like a super serum or something. But we do see Eleven's mother, her natural mother. I don't know if we saw her earlier on in season 1. I think so. I was gonna go back and watch the entire series through before watching season 4, but it was like days away, and there was no way I could watch all that.
Right.
But we do see flashbacks in season 4 of her mother being dragged out of the lab. I forget her name. They didn't mention it, but I can't remember.
So I mean, we know that these are kids though who have grown up in the lab, with the exception of one. All of them, the only life that they've really known has been there in the lab.
Yeah.
And so, my guess is that they've had at least mothers who have been used for their wombs to go and create children, possibly artificially inseminated, using DNA from one, and then either told the baby died, or that being through artificial insemination legally, they don't have a right to the child. So that really is my guess.
It makes sense. It would totally work.
Yeah, that's why one is so important, because he essentially was the key to unlock the other children that had been created. I mean, that's why, especially what we find out, we had thought all through season 4 that El had snapped and had killed everybody.
Yeah.
There in the Institute, in the lab.
Which reminded me of Star Wars when Anakin went like full dark side and killed all the younglings, and was like, ha 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 ha. They didn't let me play with Legos. So
right. Well, and so the idea though that she had dealt with that guilt that really wasn't hers.
Right.
She hadn't killed those kids, but she had sort of not remembered it properly, or she had blocked it out. I thought it was a neat reveal that the guy that we had thought was a worker there in the lab turns out to be one, and turns out to be who Vecna all along. That's crazy.
I didn't see the Vecna thing coming, but I'll tell you, as soon as he told El that, like, I spent time with number 1. That's number 1.
Yeah.
I knew instantly. I think everybody did, but I knew right away. I was like, that's him. And then I kind of made the connections. Like, who could have expected him to be Vecna? Because Vecna's this being and upside down. Like, you would never think that it was some human guy. But I love that little push. And then that's the ending. And we're like, what? And we got to wait till July to see the last 2 parts or 2 episodes. And to see where it all goes and how it pays off. And this is really, season 4 is really part 1 of the end, because season 5 will be the very last season. And
so they've said that it's the end.
Yeah, I think that even the little tagline for season 4 is every ending has a beginning.
Oh, okay.
I think that's one of the little not catchphrases, but one of the little taglines on that. Which, I mean, how long could that show go, really? And these kids are going to be like 40 years old next season. I mean,
as long as they're making money, right?
They're like, we're in 10th grade and we look like we're 35.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they did it in Smallville, so
we've seen it happen in so many other shows before, where clearly the actors are far older than the characters that they're portraying.
Yeah, I think when it happened in Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire was like 62 when they made that movie.
Right.
But he played like a 16-year-old.
Right. I mean, Tobey Maguire has like full-blown osteoporosis, and he's, swinging around. He's a member of the AARP.
I think he went to school with Betty White's mom.
I think so. Yeah.
Tobey Maguire comes on here like, hey, that's not very nice. Well,
I know. Well, I thought we were a positive podcast, Steven.
We are. It's just, he looks really good for his age. That's the positivity. I mean,
okay, so I'm going to address the...
Nobody cares what teens did in the 90s.
Right.
They're all sitting in a circle in their basement doing things that they don't tell their parents about.
You know what's crazy is I've seen a number of memes or posts by people that grew up during that time like I did, and it's true. Like, I remember as kids getting on our bikes and we lived in suburban Portland, Oregon, and as you know, 8, 9, 10 year olds, we could Corey and I could ride our bikes 2 miles north. We could ride them 3 miles west to get to Mall 205. We could ride them 3 miles east and go to the National Park Reserve. We could actually ride them 7 miles south and go to the big giant Clackamas Town Center Mall.
Wow.
At that age, no cell phones, no
Yeah.
GPS. Um,
Like a
I
paper
mean-
map, like.
and I just there are so many times where I go, what were my parents thinking that they just let us go and explore? Part of me goes, I'm so thankful that I had that experience, and I at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how we didn't end up killed, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I came along a little after that, and I didn't get to do that kind of thing. Like we would ride our bikes around the neighborhood, things like that, but we didn't go miles away. I didn't really get that kind of freedom until I was like 12 or 13, and I got to ride the city bus to downtown to watch a movie.
Yeah,
And I was like, "Ooh, I'm by myself," and I'm like 13. This is amazing, and I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
But
when I watch this show though, for me, it does remind me a lot of that. You know, that these kids, number one, the parents are completely oblivious. If they
Yeah.
cared where their kids were, that would be one thing. But they're completely oblivious about what the kids are involved in, because they're always gone. They're always running around. They're always into mischief. You know, but it was that time, right? Something about the '80s for me harkens back to a time when the world was different,
Mhm.
where you could go out and explore and have an adventure, and that was okay.
And you didn't wind up on some dramatic news story or anything like that.
I mean, it happened. I don't know whether we were ignorant of the fact that kids would get kidnapped, or whether there are just more crazy people in the world now than there were back then.
I think there definitely are more now, but I think a large part of it is, like you said, I think people were just ignorant to it. They didn't know about it.
Yeah,
It's like people today that on like my local news Facebook page, or people comment like, "This town isn't what it used to be. This town is trash. I'm gonna move." And it's like, it's always been this way. You're just now learning to read about it because social media blew up, and now everybody's posting about everything. It's on the TV every day. So this kind of stuff was all, people were getting murdered, people were selling drugs, people were homeless. Like all this stuff happened 30, 40, 50 years ago.
yeah,
We just think it's a bigger deal because of the well, it might be slightly bigger because the population has grown, obviously, but I mean, things like that have always been happening, even back as
Right.
far as the 50s, probably, or 40s, and the cavemen that were homeless begging for change. Like it's it's always been that way, but it's just like you said, we only now are seeing it more and more.
So
Just like
I was going to talk about one other thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like season 4, Will has been dealing with a lot of internal struggle,
yeah.
right? We know that when they introduced him at the beginning, he's very withdrawn, which I think has kind of been his character a little bit. He's been dealing with things personally, and we know that Mike's in a relationship with 11. We know that Lucas has been in a relationship with Max. We know that but he's always sort of been doing his own thing,
Right.
and we know that he's excited about Mike coming. He's got this picture that he's been working on, but he won't show anybody. And throughout the entire season, he's been holding on to that picture and bringing it with him, but nobody really knows, what's on it.
Yeah, like you don't even think, I saw that a few times. I was like, okay, he got his little tube or whatever, he rolled it up and like took it with him. But I didn't really think too much about it. Like that could be a big mystery. I mean, it is a big mystery, and that could be like the key to something that nobody knows. He's like, I just painted a picture of my friend, but it's the way to blow up the Upside Down. Or like,
I would like for that to happen, but I don't think that's what it is. I think they're going to make him coming out as gay be a big reveal.
that I had that thought. I really did because, like, especially for the time period, the '80s and like going into the early '90s, it was like by the '90s, everybody knew like, oh yeah, that's disgusting. There was that huge. Well, let's be honest, it's still like that, but it's I think more widely accepted today than it was say 30 years ago. But
Yeah,
especially during that time, though, it's like you could dare to tell someone that, like, it's so that would be a bold move. I think that would
right.
be an interesting one.
I think the real secret that's coming out is not just that Will is gay, but that he's gay and he has feelings for Mike. I think that's what's going to end up coming out. Um, and I think Mike is clearly not gay, and that's going to make things particularly awkward. Um, we'll see eventually how that happens. But there's been I think we've seen Will get closer and closer and closer to having that conversation with Mike.
Yeah, like it's nothing. It's nothing.
Right.
That like it does seem like a denial kind of thing, like where
Right.
he's trying to figure it out, but he's not entirely sure, maybe, or maybe he's completely sure, but he just doesn't know how to say it.
Yeah. I don't think that Will is in denial. I think he's known for quite a long time about who he is. But I think the challenge for him is, okay, what do I do with it? Right?
Yeah.
And it's why whenever Mike and Elle have problems in their relationship, Will would usually kind of swoop in, right? It was a little bit odd,
A little bit.
but it's almost like he was thinking, "Oh, this is my opportunity." Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and call it.
Well, feelings for Vecna. No, I was thinking that in like a joking way, but I wasn't gonna say it. But maybe Corey picked up on that whole psychic thing and then like threw it out there because Will was in the Upside Down in season 1 for quite a while, like the entire season. So I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I feel like that's really been a very subtle storyline.
Yeah.
I think they've been leaving breadcrumbs for a while, but I'm hoping that they don't drag it out into season 5.
Yeah.
When you compare the coming out story of Will to that of what we see between Steve and Robin,
Mm-hmm.
it's completely different. For whatever reason, Robin is very open about talking about her sexuality, and so she clearly, it's that whole that joking line in there where he's like, who pauses the video at 5 minutes and 47 seconds? People who like boobies. And so for Robin, she's very comfortable, at least with being out. Though I think in the same kind of thing, you could be gay, you just couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, and I think too, even back in that time, there might have been a different, like a double standard kind of thing, where it's like, especially with guys talking to, like, with Steve talking to her, like, you're attractive, and he still has that like feeling, that like, oh, maybe she would like me one day. There was that like tension, like not like negative tension, but that hopeful, that impossible hopefulness that he had. But he's like, oh, she's cool and everything. So her being gay, that doesn't bother me. But if a young boy comes out as gay, that's a bigger deal for everybody.
Right.
Because that's not appropriate. Women, okay, whatever. They kiss each other and pee together. That's fine. But boys can't be gay. That's wrong. I think that is probably part of that.
Yeah. So they're definitely delving into that storyline a little bit. I think the duo that I didn't know that I would really love is seeing Robin and Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy Drew. them teaming up and working together. Robin has, Nancy is that she's gonna dig and find the information that she needs. She really is that
Oh yeah.
Lois Lane
Yep.
kind of character. But Robin has this. She's a good liar, and she has this creative exuberance about her.
She definitely does.
Yeah, you kind of think about, they go to the insane asylum, and had it not been for Robin, they never would have gotten in there
No.
to go and have that interview.
And that was just like on the fly. She didn't plan that. She was like, well, let me tell you this. And it's just, that's how you do it. That's how you get things done.
Exactly.
I'm excited for I guess, episode 8 and 9 coming. I want to say it was July 1st.
July 1st.
Okay, cool.
It'll be a good birthday present.
Yeah, and it's not very far. It's less than a month away. I think that'll go by pretty quick. Hopefully, I know May went by very quick. And now we're almost a complete week through June, which that blows me away. We're literally, well, not literally, but we're right there at the halfway mark for 2022. Seems like just yesterday it was January 2020.
I know. I've got to tell you, as an educator and a school principal, for me, getting past graduation is really I can finally take a deep breath. So
Right.
we just had graduation on last Thursday, and
Awesome.
I am so glad that is in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, it's like bye until next year.
Yeah, peace.
But yeah, peace for a little while. It's always good. I'm hoping for some peace myself coming up. Hopefully I can still take a vacation and do all of that fun stuff, which we'll see what happens.
So are you still waiting on things to open up for you?
I'm still waiting to see. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I still don't know the exact date of my vacation, which is another thing that's frustrating me, because I think I asked like 3 weeks ago and they were like, oh, well, I'll check that for you. And it's like, did you check it? Oh, not today. Remind me tomorrow. Okay. Did you check it? Oh, I didn't get a check. Just trying to figure that out, and the finances and everything, trying to figure it all out. Hopefully it all lines up. If not, then there's more time, maybe later on in the year or next year or something. But I definitely want to take that trip. I definitely want to do it. I just don't know when. I wish I had more control over the situation, and like, all right, I'm going tomorrow, not literally, but the freedom to go whenever.
Right. Well, the good thing is, California isn't going anywhere, at least not anytime soon.
Very weird. I think there is some truth to this whole Corey psychic thing, because I kind of felt like you were going to say that, and then you said it, and I was just like, "Whoa, that's very interesting."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've talked about as much as we can here about.
We really have.
Stranger Things season 4. I'd love to see some comments left here for us, on our YouTube. If you guys have any theories or things you're thinking about as far as, Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yeah. Leave the comments. Leave all that fun stuff, the thoughts, the theories. Just trying to think of another T word that can go in there. Thoughts, theories, and tests.
Testimonials. Yeah.
Yeah, testimonial. There we go. I didn't. Wow. That's what I meant to say. I was just yawning. But yeah, leave them all. And if you want to do drawings or macaroni art, of your favorite characters, and post them in comments. Or
like kindergarten all over again.
Finger paintings.
Right. We're open to all of it.
With the blood of your enemies. Okay, that's a little far.
I know. Stephen, I think that we've discussed this before, that when we get to talking about finger painting with the blood of your enemies, it's probably a good time to say good night. Probably.
So don't do that.
Yeah.
No, you don't do that. So it's been fun. I'm not sure what we'll talk about next time. I think I'm going to try to get to watch Obi-Wan and really get that in there. And
Obi-Wan, number 1, and then The Boys.
I've heard a lot about it. I know Eric
Yeah.
Wallace was talking about that, and
Yeah.
he seems to really love it, and so many other people seem to love it. So I got to check it out.
Have you not watched The Boys at all?
No,
Oh my God.
I haven't. I
Yeah.
still never finished watching Black Lightning. Like, there's so many shows and that's been over for like 2 years almost. I don't know. I watch shows like 17 years later.
I'm
like,
so disappointed, Steven.
yeah, I'm a sucker for the new things, but only some of them, not all of them at once. I'm like,
Yeah.
this one thing, and then I obsess over it, and then like late at night I'll just sit and watch reruns of The Big Bang Theory, or that 70s show, or whatever, those old sitcoms and stuff like that.
Right. Well, and I think that there's nothing wrong with going back and watching
No.
great shows over again. At the same time, if you have an opportunity to go and talk about some new stuff, man, I would really encourage you. Number one, The Boys, they literally, there is no filter. They really are all about breaking boundaries and doing things that are shocking. If you'd ever wondered about what would happen if there were like, evil, an evil Justice League,
Nice.
Anyway, really good. I'd encourage you to check it out. And season 3 is definitely lives up to its reputation. So
A little piece of news, like throughout the length of this, with the last hour, we got 12 more views on our episode with Eric Wallace. So I'm going to try to not look at the comments tonight, and then see what, tomorrow, maybe browse a little bit.
Right. But yeah, I mean, we are at what, 315?
It's at 312, I think, right now.
312. Which I realize, for some people that's small potatoes. For us, though, that's huge.
Yeah, and especially like last night, it was at like 84 or something like that, or 75 or whatever. And then this morning, which is funny because usually our YouTube views are a little bit lower, a little bit lagging behind Facebook, which most of our audience is here on Facebook. But this one just kind of, it was teetering at like 5 views to the like 60 on Facebook, and then it just shot. So that's good. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like people love the negativity, and that's why they keep watching until. But hey, I mean, embrace the hate, I guess. The blood of your enemies.
I know. I think we're gonna ride the wave, no matter what it's made of. So, yeah.
If anybody didn't know what riding the wave would look like, it's that.
Well, now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Right.
So, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Friday night. Keep watching that video. Keep sharing it with friends and families. You see your mailman tomorrow, give him the link to our YouTube channel. Tell him to like, comment, subscribe to notifications, all that good stuff. And yeah, that would be great.
All right. Well, I think we got nothing more to say then. Have a good night.
Watch on YouTube, more better. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yatta! All right, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care.
See ya. Where's the video? There it is.